In this video, we're going to have a look at how I set up my T3 so I can continue working effectively as a photographer and maybe also take advantage of the video potential from this brand new APS-C King. There are other videos online, but this one is mine, and you never know, one day when I lose my memory, I can look back and I've got a fail safe for seeing what my settings were, that, and I can save them with X-Acquire. Image size, for the most part, 3:2, unless I'm shooting thumbnails, 16:9, but 3:2, I'm always shooting at the top. Image quality, if I'm just messing about, fine for those JPEGs that I really love, but if I'm working, it's always fine plus raw. With raw recording, lossless, compressed, for me, no big difference, so that's fine. Grain effect, I'm leaving off. Color chrome effect, I'm leaving off. White balance, auto. Dynamic range, auto. I'm happy enough with that. Dynamic range priority, I'm leaving that off for now, but I'm doing some tests on it. Highlight tone, -2. Shadow tone, 0. Color, +2. Sharpness, +2. Noise reduction, I've dropped down to -3 since the last time we did a similar video. Long exposure noise reduction, off. Lens modulation optimizer on. Color space, sRGB. Let's keep going down here. Focus area, now I'm happy with it being like that. Depending on the lens, I might just rock this to a bigger focus point. Gives me a little bit more speed. AF mode, I am a big fan of single point, old school, but I love it. I'm leaving the AFC settings in 1 at the moment. I only really use AFC, for example, in stuff like weddings when the couple are walking down the aisle towards the camera. AFC I also use in movie mode, but that's a different story. Store AF mode by orientation off. AF point display on. I'm currently using the full 425 points, and remember the T3 has some fantastic improvements in that regards. The PDAF, I believe it is right across the frame basically now. Pre-AF off. AF illuminator off. Face detection, now I actually got on pretty well with the face detection on the T2 and the T20, and it's even better on the T3, which we'll go into in another video, but for now I'm leaving it on, and eye auto, although I always like the nearest eye to be the one that's in focus, but for now that's worked fine for me. AF and MF on. MF assist peak. Now we do have digital micro prism, which we'll look at when we do a video on using the X-T3 with vintage lenses. If you want to see that, we'll just leave it where I currently enjoy it for now. White high. Focus check on. Let's keep going down here. You can see that. Release, focus priority, both on release. Touchscreen mode, I'm leaving that on AF, although clearly in the top corner on the screen you can change that as you wish. I'm leaving on AF for the moment. If I'm shooting strictly stealthy, you know, I'll use the screen and just hit it, and that's pretty cool. I do enjoy that, but let's just switch that back to AF for now. Drive setting, now you know I like to use a film bracket here, and that's how I have it set up. ProNeg high, Astia and Acros red. JPEG only in that case. When I'm shooting for work, it's raw and JPEG, and I don't get a film simulation. I would love to get all 3 JPEGs, that would be pretty cool, but that's the way the cookie crumbles at the moment. High speed burst, I'm currently playing with this 20 frames per second because, you know, you gotta do it, but I'm happy with a lower frame per second for the work that I do, and in fact I might just use the CL, and 5.7 is cool. Although I think the next wedding I do, I think I will try that and see how we get on. Maybe something around 11 is fine for me. Then you've got sports finder mode. I don't really need that for now. I'm going to play with these things, but we'll see. Same with pre-shot. Yes, not really interested. Let's go down a little bit. ISO settings, I'm keeping those at 160 to 12800 and minimum of 160. That'll depend on the lens I use. You can switch that to auto, and I might try that as well at some point, but let's just leave it on 60 for now. Flash settings, let me just see now. I've switched it to rear. I haven't tried out my flashes on this yet, but that'll be fine. Once I stick it on, TTL, rear, and we're good to go. Now we get into the movie settings, and this section is a lot deeper than I even need. I'm currently playing with the 4K, and in the end of my T100 review, I did shoot this in 4K 24p. I'm going to do a little bit more and see how we get on, see if it's worth me personally messing with. I'm not a extreme video shooter, but this gives me a lot of potential. I was going to play with H.265, but I'm not convinced my old Mac Pro and MacBook Air can deal with it. And for the level that I'm shooting video at, that's fine as it is. I want to play with this 120p, that could be fun, so might do that, probably on holiday or something. Film simulation, I'm trying this Eterna, highlight tone, you can see my settings there, and the cool thing with this is, when you flick into movie mode on the top dial, you get a different screen as far as you've got this nice little setting button there, you've got this monitor over there, and this setting shows you that your settings for movie mode can be completely independent to what you have on the top. So if you're shooting stills and then you want to flick into movie quickly, you don't have to change around too much, although I'd got used to that. But this is how I've set it up at the moment. 48 shutter speed, f4, that depends on how the light is and the depth of field that I want. Exposure compensators there, ISO is there. Now I'm using an external mic with the T3, that shows up as external once it's plugged in, and I have that down so it's not peaking really in the yellows too much and never in the reds. I'm getting used to that a little bit more. Headphone volume right there. Film simulation you can change. Back into the menus. Currently I'm not really messing with F-Log. I will at some point, just so I can start to learn a little bit more. I've got a fair idea about grading, but for the quick videos that I do, that might be overkill for me. We'll see if it's worth me messing about with. AF mode, area, AF custom, I've got it set as it was. My face detection, same as with my stills, but even more important with the T3, and so far I'm enjoying the face detection on the T3, and there are a few more settings down there. I will be using my HDMI monitor because obviously we don't have the flip around screen. Zebra settings, you can see if you're blowing out the highlights or not, that is really nice. Audio settings are right there, so you can see I've gone down right down to minus 30 dB with the external mic on the T100 video. It was a little bit low, to be honest. My sound settings are basically off other than playback volume. I don't want any beeps, any shutter sounds or anything. Button dial setting, function buttons. I keep things fairly simple, but you can see what I have set up. I mean, you know, you've got these touch functions which are pretty cool. For example, you can push up and get your different histograms, push down and get your horizons, etc. there. Again, new functions that I haven't really been messing with too much. Power management, 2 minutes boosts. Battery life seems really good on this T3. I can't quantify it just yet, but I always carry a lot of spares USB packs, and I've got 2 USB-C cables on the way. When you first set up the camera, it's really quick with the app and it updates the firmware straight away. I know a bunch of people are raving about that. Yeah, it is much easier to update the firmware. For the most part, when I'm shooting stills in, I've got the ISO on auto and I've got the shutter speed on auto because I'm most interested in aperture priority. Now that changes if I'm using flash, then I'll probably pop this to a relevant shutter speed, pop this to an ISO that gets me where I need it. Let's just say a go-to starting point for an indoor party, maybe around there. Then I'll flick the aperture around to something 5.6. What I'll do first, without wanting to go into a whole flash demonstration or explanation, is record the ambient exposure first. So I'll take a picture without any flash turned on, all manual, and see if these settings get me the ambient exposure that I need. Then I'll flick my flash on, TTL, fire off a couple of tests and see how it goes. Back to shooting regular stills, reportage, documentary stuff. I like to keep this dial on C so I can access the full -5 +5, by which I will use the top dial to rock around that, and I find that really handy. If I'm shooting my JPEGs, bracket. If I'm shooting on my pro work, S or CL, maybe CH if I want a little bit of fun. This side, my metering, I'm happy with it being matrix metering there. If I'm shooting something like a theatre or that kind of thing where I'm just interested in one spot, I'm going into spot mode. Dead simple right there. That's just my personal way of setting up the camera. Let us know what you do with yours in the comments below. Let's share some tips down there. This is going straight into my pro kit. I'm going to be doing some other tests to see if I can take advantage of some of the upgraded features. I'm going to be letting you know what I think about the autofocus, the face detection, the low light improvements over the T2. And as for a full review, that will be coming. But first we're going to be doing a bunch of tests with this camera. Some I'll upload for you guys. And once I'm down the road a little bit, then I'll put a review out. I don't like to put a review out for a new camera unless I've really put it through its paces properly. And as this is a pro bit of kit, it needs to be put to work, not just held for a day. And anyway, stay subscribed, hit notification, and yeah, we'll be taking a closer look at this brand new king of APS-C.